So on a previous episode, we we went fully in on who is Mary Valloni, and today we get to talk about who is Mike Kim. And so today, I cannot wait for this conversation. On the last episode that we were talking about with on my side, I said I am so nervous. So Mike, I don't know how you feel today, but
I know how you feel. I get it now because this is just like, oh boy. No, but this is a lot of fun because we don't, we're always teaching together
yeah,
and people pick up little tidbits of our story and our personalities and kind of our own personal journeys. So I'm excited. I'm an open
yeah,
book.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so one of the primary things that I think that I questioned and just wanted to know more about Mike Kim was why missionaries? Like, why have you been? Because during your day job, I'll just say your day job because you're an entrepreneur. But during your day job, you work a lot with entrepreneurs. Specifically in the for-profit space. So, why do you have a passion for missionaries and individuals in the ministry space?
This, I've always had a passion for missionaries, but what we're doing with Fully Funded, I did not see coming at all. I was greatly impacted by short-term missions when I was in high school. Like this was what you did when you were in our youth group when I was in high school. It's just like it was almost kind of expected for us to go on these short-term mission trips and all my friends would go. I remember the first one I went on, it was going into my sophomore year in high school. And that trip was so impactful to me. We went to Colombia in South America. It really lit a fire in my faith and set me down a path through the rest of high school into college, into my young adult years to serve in vocational ministry. It was really the impetus for that. Like all the things that I experienced on that trip. I think I ended up going, Mary, on 6 or 7 more short-term mission trips every summer for like the next several years. And then I kind of stopped because I didn't go to that church anymore. I'd gotten married and moved. And then I took a role at a church in Connecticut as the worship pastor, which was great. It was meaningful. But looking back, I missed the grit and the rawness of going somewhere and really having that sense of mission and purpose. Again, nothing against church vocational ministry. But I was like, I'm sitting here discussing the color of the carpet in the sanctuary. We're not really impacting people for Christ. And I was like, yeah, I could lead worship or preach on weekends, but I just kind of felt I was on the sidelines in a lot of ways. So one of my drummers was trying to raise support because he and his wife had just got married. They were actually going to do campus ministry. And I've shared this story in our book and everywhere else. It's like, I was just shocked at how hard it was to give them money. I was like, what is wrong with your sending organization? We don't use checks. Like, can I just give you it was just crazy. And so I wrote a blog post and I was also helping another evangelist named Leif Hetland out of Atlanta, Georgia. He was doing a lot of stuff in the Middle East, which was so cool. And I wrote this blog post. He shared it with his audience and it just went viral. And now here we are, so I think now that I look at it, I'm not as young as I used to be. I think I've always felt that missionaries were cool
Yeah.
and they did like boots on the ground stuff and they were willing to get their hands dirty. They weren't holed up in an office or a church building or something. Again, nothing wrong with that. But I discovered late in life that I was an entrepreneur. And then I also discovered late in life that I really, really love missionaries because there's probably a lot of crossover. So long-winded answer, but yeah, that was it.
No, so good. Well, and I think that there's such a parallel too between you working with personal brand, businesses. So people where there is a sole face. So MikeKim.com, MaryValloni.com. Like we have our personal brands individually, and then we have our business and the things that we do. And I feel like so many missionaries are personal brands. So there was quite a bit of alignment on that, on that front. So I'm also just curious, just as far as, when you work with ministries or you work with missionaries, you really come from from the marketing perspective, storytelling perspective, all those things. And so I'm just curious if you were, let's just put Mike Kim in the shoes of a missionary. what would winning look like to you? Like, what would winning be for somebody who's in that position if you were in their shoes?
I would feel that I would want to make sure that I am completely poured out, like the things that I know, learned, experienced, and continuing to experience and learn and grow in. Yeah, I was like completely poured out as much as possible on all fronts. And I mean, to the people that I might be ministering to in a certain city or region, and also to my supporters and my donors. I don't want my donors and supporters to ever feel like they're not getting the best of me either. So and being able to storytell, being able to write, being able to use these channels of communication that we have now, that's actually very possible. And in previous generations, it wasn't, right? But
Mhm.
now I can post things on social media. I can use my email list, and I can communicate to everybody and feel like I've left it all on the field. That no one is exempt from learning through the things that God is doing in my life. So I still continually do this. Like some things give and take more than others in certain seasons, right, Mayor? But
Yeah.
like people know me from my youth as a worship leader primarily. And when I feel so led, sometimes I pick up that guitar and I'll play like a clip of a song. And I don't do that performatively. I'm just like, I really feel like I want to spend some time doing this, just God and I. And then I'll just hit the record button and I'll post it. And my Facebook feed will blow up. It's just so wild how that happens. And I have this little secret YouTube channel, Mike Kim Worship, that has a bunch of my old videos on it. And once in a while, I'll upload things there without telling anybody. But I just trust that people will find it and the right people will see it. And sometimes I'm shocked, like how many views a video gets. I'm like, I didn't even promote that. You just let the algorithm, I guess,
Mhm.
put it out there. But I never feel like, gosh, there's something that I've been stingy with and holding on to that I learned. I'm always trying to distribute it out into the world. And I just think that's what's always driven me. Yeah. That's
So good.
that's what winning would look like, because then they can all follow the journey. Whether you move to Mexico, I move back to New Jersey, you go back to St. Louis, who knows? They're always kind of along for the ride. And it's not a marketing tactic. It's just that I want to be poured out for the people who God has brought into my sphere of influence. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that falls in line with just your DNA of serving. That is something that you teach our students continuously is like serve, serve, serve. Stop being selfish. Like it's like and like you're pretty, blunt at times, or it's just like, don't be lazy. Like, just kind of getting to the point where it's like, hey, P.S. When you hire Mike and I, like, we aren't gonna be the you're awesome, you're so great. It's like you hire us because you want people to say, come on, pull it together. Let's tell better stories. Let's do this. But something that I think is really impressive, just about that methodology of serving that what you do it in everything like it is part of who you are. You want to serve people. You know that everybody wants to feel like that they're seen and heard. Who doesn't, right? But I will say, Mike, I I've been doing business. I've been doing this for a long time, and it wasn't until you and I connected and met that I got to kind of have a front row view of like how you do business and how you do life in general. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on why you think that you have had so much success. And we can use success, the definition of success in a lot of ways, but financially, your business has done well. You've had more clients than you can probably count. You've had a lot of success, whatever that looks like. But why do you think that is? Why do you think that you have had the ability to move people?
Wow. It's interesting because I don't always feel successful. I don't know what that is supposed to mean. I think we all sort of define it for ourselves in some way, shape, or form. I was actually reading this scripture this morning. I read through Proverbs very regularly. Like that's if I'm going to read one book in the Bible on a continuing ongoing basis, it's always Proverbs, because there's just so much wisdom that you catch at different seasons in your life. And I came across The scripture that says, "Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will serve before kings. He will not serve before obscure men." And I was like, "Wow!" I remember reading that when I was in college. There was this revivalist who came through our church, and he was sharing that scripture. And it's interesting that you asked me that today because that just came to me this morning. I realized that I've worked hard on developing skills, a lot of skills. I've always felt like if I got better at what I was naturally talented in or had an affinity for, that I would always be useful. And I've always tried to just be useful. I think that's one thing where I saw storytelling, I saw speaking, I saw writing songs. I saw that let me just take kind of the spiritual aspect out of it. I was always aware of how to make and create meaningful experiences for people. And that can be true of a worship setting, a service, a conference, a Zoom call, a book that they're leafing through on their own, on their couch or in the car somewhere or on a flight. And that's translated a lot. And so I've always tried to learn those things. Like I always loved learning about hospitality at Disney World or the Ritz Carlton because these principles are out there in the world. Um, I always was trying to figure out how do I incorporate the best of these things into the worlds that I'm in. Secondly, man, I people think I'm super strategic or whatever, and to some extent I am. I do think things through, but there are some situations that have happened in my life that you can only go, that was only God. There, like meeting you, what we're doing here. I think that's part of why this works so well because you and I could never have planned this in a million years.
No.
This was a God thing, and if we're not faithful with it, like we're dummies. Like we got to really run with this and be faithful with it. But that puts so much. I put so much more energy into what we do here than my other business
Hmm.
adventures because I feel like it's a divine assignment in a lot of ways. Um, and I think that it's going to sound a little weird, but I just think that I've always had a very earnest intention to what I was doing. I really wanted to help people. I really cared about the people I was helping. I didn't really care about being big or well known. And this is true even back in my vocational ministry days where I was on stages a lot. I really didn't care about that. I just feel like life is very practicable. Life is done in the trenches. Life is done in those moments where people have their hands dirty and tears are running down their face. And sometimes in the bliss of like you staying up all morning with your daughter and drawing tacos on construction paper.
Yeah.
Like that's really where people are. So I've never taken myself too seriously in that way. And I think God has been like, yeah, this guy's not going to hog all the credit or be a prima donna or diva or, some celebrity wannabe or whatever. And so I can trust him with some of these things. So maybe, I guess that's it,
Yeah.
tried to be really honest.
Yeah. And I just have noticed that when you sell, I'll use that term, because I think sometimes, especially in the ministry space, you feel like, okay, I got to sell my ministry or I've got to obviously invite people into the work that's being done. But one thing that I notice about you when you do sell, so whether it's, the stuff that we're doing inside of Fully Funded Academy, or if it's a mastermind coaching group, a workshop, whatever you want to call it, you always make things like a no-brainer. Like you like throw the kitchen sink in. Like I'll even use our book, Fully Funded. I'm like, you put in our book in Fully Funded, you were like, we're putting all the templates, we're putting all the resources, we're giving them everything. Why? Like most people would just be like, we got to pay, they got to buy this and they got to buy this. And then we're going to nickel and dime them at every turn. And you're just like, give them everything. Why?
I mean, that's what God does with us. I mean, if we really, really want to like be spiritual about it in that sense, he doesn't hold anything back. He gives us everything and the kitchen sink, there's always more. That gentleman that I worked with in Atlanta for a little while, Leif, he had this saying, I think he was the first one who ever shared this with me. He's like, you don't live for God, you live from God. That means he's your dad. He's pretty loaded. He's got all the money and resources and wealth and prosperity that you could ever imagine. And he's a good father. What do you need? Here's the money. What do you need? Here's more. Before I give you even more, I want to know that you can steward this in just the way that you would do with your daughter, in just the way our parents did with us, with anything. They didn't just give us the credit card or a brand new car. They wanted to know that we could be faithful and entrusted with it. And with what we do and what we know and have learned, I just feel like we should give all that away, let people do with it what they may. And for the things that are real, that are not fine, that are not infinite, our time, our energy, we can create some other structures or containers around that. But that's just sort of how I've always felt. Like I've never felt like holding things back from people is going to be helpful for them. Now, you don't want to like inundate them and overwhelm them. But when it comes to selling, quote unquote selling, I'm just like, I think of it more as an invitation, Mary. Like I've been around a lot of situations where people would use fear-based language and scare tactics. And you see this sometimes even in church. I grew up in a very charismatic background, like a Pentecostal charismatic background where, preachers would come in and they would just try to scare people into the gospel. And I understand where they're coming from, but that colors their experience and their relationship with God so much after. Did I ever tell you this? When I was in college, this is so crazy. I can't believe we did this. Our pastor decided, instead of like letting everybody go out during Halloween and all that, sort of stuff, because all the demonic stuff around it.
Yeah.
We held a special weekend at our church called Hell House. And we invited all these kids from our community, all the youth group kids, their friends, and we just decked out the entire church in like a horror house. One room had a fake nightclub with like people faking drinking, and another one was just like, it was so terrible. And like we would have kids, we put garbage bags in the hall to cover the walls, and we'd turn all the lights off. And then we'd have kids hiding behind the wall to scare kids while they're walking through. We're trying to recreate a physical representation of hell. And after you get through it, you had to come upstairs and meet with me and our guest preacher, who was like a youth evangelist. And these kids would be crying and terrified. And I was just there to kind of manage it. I didn't preach at them or whatever. And this guy was like, so what did you feel? Is that where you want to go in your life, and spend eternity? It's like, when I hear that now, I'm like, I know some of you might be listening, but like, that's actually not a bad idea. I'm telling you, where we were in New Jersey is not a good idea. Thank God social media did not exist. Seriously. Holy cow. And so I'm not like that. I feel like Jesus gives us stern warnings in scripture, but everything's an invitation. Come to me, you who are tired and thirsty and weary, come to me. Psalm 23, right? Everything's an invitation. And yes, sometimes it's like, yeah, you got to move. You got to move your butt, like get on it. Kind of what we do with some of our students, but it's still an invitation. And I think we lose so much sight of that, So yeah,
I love
I want an invitation to the wedding, not a jury duty invitation.
Well, and it does come back to, why would people want to support the work that you're doing? And you're saying it's an invitation. And so give them all the great, like the benefit, the stories, the, life transformation, like all the things that you teach as far as, when you're writing an email and what to put in it, you're giving them all that stuff. But it makes sense. So you're like, I don't want to scare people away. I want them to feel welcome here, that they're like, ooh, I like you and I want to hear more from you. And now they're actually reading your emails and not deleting them or unsubscribing. They're actually leaning in. So love it, love it, love it. Okay. So just as we kind of, wrap up our conversation, I'm just curious as far as just your vision for the work that you're doing. I mean, it's interesting because we did a recent podcast episode with a dear friend of ours. And we were kind of talking through, just the things that we envisioned for Fully Funded and what we wanted to do here. But I'm just curious as far as just your personal perspective on just the direction that missionaries are going, and just your vision for supporting that.
Yeah, this is this is cool because I've always said till where we are now, you were the one who really had a vision because you were way more in that space than I was. I was just a messaging and marketing communications guy, but we both shared such an affinity for missions and our lives were so impacted by it. Now that our book is written, now that we've got this YouTube channel kind of up and running, we've got sort of our legs under us. We're starting to learn to walk before we run. Yeah, and there are other things that we've run for a long time, and we've done really well in that. I would really like to see a community here where we have a lot of the folks that we've worked with come in and teach this to others, to really take this into organizations and to really help our missionaries and ministry leaders understand that this is not going to look life like this and serving the Lord in this way is not going to look like the way it has in the last 50 years. The world is so much more interconnected. Going to travel somewhere is not that big of a deal anymore. I mean, when you and I were in our 20s and KPU Hannon comes through your college campus and talks about the 1040 window in Asia, we're like, oh my God, that's crazy. There's a universe away. Now we're like, oh, let's go on Instagram and look at it.
Yep.
The world has shrunk. But what that also means is kind of what I was saying before. If you can share all aspects of your life and you are developing those skills so that you can do that effectively, you can go anywhere, reach anyone from anywhere, reach anyone who is anywhere from where you are. The center of the world is literally you. And not in an egotistical way. It's just the world is round, right? The universe has you are the center. So wherever you are, you can broadcast and speak to people in person. And somebody may be watching a podcast that you've recorded or reading an email while you're witnessing to somebody at a coffee shop or just having a conversation with a friend, helping them walk through some really hard times. It's incredible what we could do. So I want to equip people to do that. I would love to see our members write books and start podcasts and grow YouTube channels and use all this technology that we have to get this message out there. And without going way down the rabbit trail, Mary, I mean, because of the technology that we have now, it's also exposing so much of that dark, crazy, evil stuff that's going on in the world. Like, I don't want to go too much down a rabbit trail, but now people are opening up about these weird, the Epstein things and P. Diddy cult thing, or the, Bohemian Grove or whatever that is, where they're sacrificing things to pagan owls and people are snooping in there and posting these videos on YouTube. And so in a way, I think what's happening is like this veil is being lifted and people are really seeing what happens in the entertainment industry, what really, really sinister, evil stuff is out there. And at the flip side, I'm seeing people being so much more vocal about their faith. You can't turn on a game anymore. Like, we're big football fans, you and I, we're baseball. They'll come on and they don't care anymore. They'll just say, all glory to God, blah, blah. And I know people have said that before, but it's a different context now. Yeah. Like, people really living it out. So I think in a way, that's cool. Like, that's good. There's not this secrecy as much anymore. And that means that if we do our part and learn these skills, we will not just not serve before unobscure people. We will really be able to impact the world. And all of us are needed. All of us have spheres of influence. So that's my vision here. Oh gosh, I would be so happy if our friends and students started putting more content out there and writing books and sharing stories. And that's probably the next book that I want us to work on. It's like these crazy cool stories of our actual missionaries. We've taught the fundraising part in our first book, but now it's like, let's talk about these wild stories. Like, what is God doing that doesn't get the press, that doesn't get the publicity? I'd love to work on that. So
cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, and it's interesting. Like you say, travel is just not as glamorized as it once was. But at the same time, like you said, missionaries are just, you guys are really, really cool. Like, I was like I mean, like, you're seeing stuff that other people will never see. You're open to embracing things that most people, haven't even scratched the surface on. So when you talk about the darkness and all that stuff, like, you guys, you who's watching, listening right now, like, I know you have seen the darkest corners and pockets of the world, like, that Mike and I probably can't even wrap our minds around what you've seen, because I know that the stories are just there. And so obviously, Mike and I are here to support you guys in the journey of just sharing that message more and getting in front of people. So I love that vision, Mike. That's awesome. And so good. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation with Mike. Thank you, Mike, for sharing a little bit about just kind of how you process things. I think that one of the things that I admire so much about you, Mike, is just your ability to communicate. Like, you have an ability. I remember, and I've probably said this before, but um, years and years ago. So you and I have been partnering together for about 8 years now. And it was probably in that first year. So we're talking about 7 or 8 years ago. And you posted on social media and just said, "Hey, tell me just give me your feedback. What's my superpower?" And because we can't always see what our superpower is, And so, and I remember so vividly saying, Mike can say something in, 3, 4, 5 words, and it would take me 100. It's like you have the ability to say it in such a concise way and to drill down and to give people the ability to join something. And I think that that skill set is hard to come by. And so I hope you guys know, like, the valuable asset that we have in Mike on our team with Fully Funded, and also just as a resource for those of you who are students of ours. Mike, you are just a wealth of information. You constantly learn. You're always growing. You're surrounding yourself with people who have gone farther than you have. And like you said, it's like, I'm not trying to like convince people. I just am trying to be a servant. I'm just trying to invite them in. And I hope you guys can see that, just his heart for serving you, and serving your ministry and sharing your message to the world. So thank you, Mike, for sharing your gift and being obedient to the Lord to do that, because you didn't have to, obviously, but you choose to. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you. That means a
Yeah.
ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. And so let's just leave it all on the field. We don't know when we're all going home. So
Amen.
let's just leave it on the field and do the work. And that's just what we've always all wanted to hear, right? Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful in the little things. And now we can trust you to be faithful in much. And it goes both ways. Be faithful in much, but still stay faithful to the little things. And so it's little things like showing up here, writing our emails, um, answering the questions that we get, and just doing what we're supposed to do, just one step at a time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So good. Awesome. All right. On that note, hey, if you are using the Fully Funded Academy materials in your sending organization, I actually had somebody just reach out to me and be like, "Hey, did you know that this sending organization is using your materials internally? Let us know." Like, Mike and I don't always know that you're using our information, which, by the way, we want you to. So this isn't like oh gosh, we're going to get in trouble. It's like, no, no, no. Like, that is our hope, is that you would take our book, you would take the information that you learn inside of our academy and share it with people. There's more to become. Like, we have a lot more coming for you guys. That's the fun part, is that Mike and I are constantly trying to find ways to serve you. Just like Mike said, we both want to serve you in the work that you guys are doing. So if there's a resource or something that you guys are missing, we're happy to explore that and see what we can offer to you guys. So use the comments here. That's why they're there. That gives us an opportunity to connect together. So we're human just like you guys are. So reach out to us. Let us know that you enjoy this video or other videos that we've been doing, and tell us what you want to hear. We're happy to do that. So love it. On that note, like, subscribe, tell your friends. I mean, that's the only way that this message will pass on. Mike, you mentioned about the algorithms, that it's like, we don't know how God can use that. I mean, we know he does. And sometimes people are going to find a video when they most need it. So we hope this video has served you today, and that our videos in the future will do that as well. So on that note, we will wrap up today's conversation, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.